I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting of the town of Saugeen Shores and remind you to declare any pecuniary interest you may have with anything on the agenda. You can do so now or when it arises. If none, then we have the next item is additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda, and we have none there. So we'll move to adoption of minutes, and you will see that there has been some corrections to the minutes as requested, and they've been circulated and posted on the web, so those will be the minutes. And the motion then is moved by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, second by Councillor Rich, that council adopt the minutes of the council meeting of February 29th, 2016 as presented. Any other discussion on it? All in favor? That's carried. The next is Committee of the Whole minutes of February 29th, and it's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, seconded by Councillor Menage, that council note and file the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of February 29th, 2016 as presented. Questions? Comments? All in favor? That's carried. So that moves us down to the agenda to reports of the Committee of the Whole, and we have a Planning and Development report from February 29th, and it's been moved by Councillor Dave Mayette and seconded by Councillor Grace. The Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the Planning and Development report dated February 29th, 2016, recommending that the revised sidewalk patio and sidewalk cafe encroachment policy be approved. Any questions or comments to it? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Next item then is the Committee of the Whole report from February the 29th, and it's been moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Mike Mayette, that Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the Committee of the Whole report dated February the 29th, 2016, recommending that Council endorse the following. 1. AMO communications regarding AMO/LAS requests for broader investment powers for municipalities, and 2. Town of Aurora's resolution dated January the 26th, 2016 regarding the Ontario Municipal Board's jurisdiction. Any further comments or questions to this motion? All in favor then? Opposed, if any? That's carried. So the next item on the agenda then is an economic development, is report of municipal officers, and it's an economic development advisory committee report from. It's been moved by Councillor Grace and seconded by Councillor Dave Mayette that Council adopts the Economic Development Advisory Committee report dated March 14th, 2016, recommending that the committee's 2016-2018 work plan be approved. Any questions to that? Councillor Dave Mayette.
Not so much questions, a comment to say I hope everybody takes an opportunity to look at that work plan that we've put together. It's very aggressive, and there's some really good items on there, and it's truly been a pleasure to work with this Economic Development Committee, and I believe that we're going to do some great things in the coming year.
Thank you, and if there's any further comments, then all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. The next item then is a staff report, and it has to do with a special event, the Port Elgin BIA Easter Petting Zoo. It's been moved by Councillor Rich and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau that Council grants permission to the Port Elgin BIA to close Green Street from Godrich Street westerly to Waterloo Street on Saturday, March the 26th, 2016, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. to facilitate the Easter Petting Zoo. Any questions to this? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next item on the agenda then is bylaws, and the first one is to authorize Phase 2 of the Heritage Registry, and it's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, seconded by Councillor Neil Menage, that bylaw 31-2016, being a bylaw to establish a municipal heritage registry for the town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 14th day of March 2016. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item is to authorize the non-union cost of living. And it's been moved by Councillor Rich and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau that bylaw 32-2016, being a bylaw to establish the salaries and wages of non-union employees and certain officers of the town of Saugeen Shores for the year 2016, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 14th day of March 2016. Any questions, comments? Councillor Matheson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in agreement with most of this. However, I have a little problem with number 3. I see it as a kind of a conflict of interest here. We're saying on one part that yes, we're going to be frugal, and council is going to take a not as large an increase as our treasurer has suggested. But on the other hand, it's only to the council. We're not looking at the members who are on on the various boards, they will still receive an increase. Just the visual aspect of it, some people might say, hey, I kind of like to see that amendment removed, and then we have our clerk do an overview of the wages, because, you know, according to Jose Bautista, we are getting the hometown discount with what's being charged in town here. So it's just, I have an issue with number 3.
You want to raise that again? The issue around, help me out here, Vice Deputy Weaver.
Just as a comment, I do agree with Councillor Matheson. The explanation as to why keeping the increase to members of council was to the consumer price index. It was associated with, you know, people on committees negotiating things, and then the 2 committees are still there getting the 2.25. So there was an explanation given for why this was a good idea, but then we didn't address the Police Services Board and the Planning Advisory Committee members. So yeah, I think we have had reviews of councillor remuneration. I don't know if it's time for another one, but, you know, we know we're behind. We know we're not in good shape in that regard within communities of our size and in Bruce County. And so I understand the reason why, you know, it's always perceived as, you know, we're doing our own increase here. But at the same time, you know, we have done research into this, and we know we're behind.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, for clarification, we had flagged this with our new Director of Finance, and I'd suggested that he sit down with the clerk in early 2017, so that you typically look at your compensation once every council term.
Is that satisfactory? I mean, otherwise, I mean, I would request, if you want to change this, that you give me a written motion to amend it. If you go ahead, Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recall the discussion that we had at when this, I guess it was on the February 29th council meeting, and the question was raised. I think I raised it myself. Was if the restraint to the cost of living that was proposed by, I believe, the deputy mayor at the time, would be effective to just the council remuneration or to those remunerations for boards and committees as well. And so the opportunity was there to raise it at that time, and it was made quite clear that that was just for the council remuneration. So, and we may have had an opportunity to change this before, and we consciously let that opportunity go by.
Mr. Mayor, Council is the only body that both negotiates contracts and sets the remuneration for itself and for the committees, which means it's the only body that has those tools both in its hand. And my concern was that if this body is both negotiating those rates and taking the results of those negotiations, that is a problem for me, which is why I put it forward. I don't have any difficulty with having the police board take the same rate as council if that's the wish. I think that's the way I would prefer to see it done rather than put this back. What I would suggest is going forward that council should receive the CPI, the rate of inflation, as its increase. And then it's out of council's hands and it goes up with the rate of inflation and isn't directly related to any contract that any one of us or any group of us is negotiating. But I mean, there's no sense in belaboring it. For me, it's a problem sitting here as the deputy mayor because I am both voting on setting the rates and a member of negotiating teams across the municipality. And so I think that's, for me, that's a bit of an issue. But you know, I would say that my preference would be to if the problem is the board who also negotiates, then the board could also take the CPI, and I would be fine with that. Those are my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Mike Myatt.
The question I had was about the, you know, the rate of remuneration for councillors, and I for one do take extended vacation, as was mentioned 2 weeks ago at the council meeting, and just wondering, if at some point that, in all fairness to all of committee members, should we at some point be looking at the number of committees that each council member actually do sit on? And should we be taking a look at a model where there's the base rate where a council is reimbursed, and then also take a look at the reimbursement for the number of meetings that are attended, as some municipalities do? Is that something that at some point in time over the next year we could entertain a discussion on, Mr. Mayor?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, we will be doing that again. I mean, this council is the one that appoints those council members to there on recommendation of the striking committee, and the striking committee looks for balance and looks for a number of reasons. They all do it. So I think, I'm not sure that you can, I guess you can improve on that or you can change that. I think we did recommend that you can even circulate around all this to try and determine some qualifications for these people that we're going to be appointing. So I think that's fine. And I think the second part of your question, I think Larry really encapsulated that with what the Director of Finances do a survey and then come back to see whether, study this and come back to see whether it's appropriate that we change any of this. But so if we got, okay, yep. An amendment to the main motion has been moved by Councillor Mattis and seconded by Councillor Rich that the motion to reduce council remuneration 1.2%, is that it? Reduce it 1.2%, be removed and left as approved by the treasurer, and that the clerk undergo a study of the council remuneration and report back to council. I guess I'm struggling with what the intent of that is now. So you're saying that so it's the original amendment. So all of these will be the 2.5% increase then. 2.25. Okay. Was everybody clear on that? So what he's suggesting, and is that, as I understand the motion, the current motion says that the council's pay will be reduced from the 2.25% by 1.2%. Here you go ahead.
Just to clarify process, your motion is actually to approve the bylaw. I think what the councillor wants to do is amend section 3 of the bylaw to provide that members of council be granted an increase of 2.25% and that the clerk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm a little confused again now. Can you go over that again, Larry?
What I believe the councillor is requesting is that the bylaw be amended before it's passed and that section 3 be changed to say that members of council be granted an increase of 2.25% effective January 1st, 2016, and that the clerk undertake the review.
Okay, so that isn't really what it says, but I guess that's the intent. We understand that then? You understand that? That's all right. Okay, so any further discussion? All in favor of that motion? Opposed? That carries. The amendment carries. Now back to the main motion then. All in favor of the main motion? As amended. That carries. Bylaw is passed. Yes, sorry. So the next item then is authorized non-union cost of living increase, and it's been moved by Councillor Grace. Yes, sorry. Got me confused here tonight. The next item is move to close to public. Then it's been moved by Councillor Gray, second by Councillor Dave Mayette, that council move into close to public session in accordance with bylaw 63-2016 under section 382B to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including a municipal board, local board employee, to discuss succession planning. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, just rearise, and I'll move the motion that's been moved by Councillor Mayette, seconded by Dave Mayette, seconded by Councillor Grace, that council arise from the close to public and resume the regular meeting. And just to say that there will be, for the public portion of the report from what was in, that there will be future information on what was discussed on the personal matter before us. And it will come at a future date, shortly. Okay, all in favor? Excuse me, it's carried. It's been moved by Councillor Madison, seconded by Councillor Mike Mayette, that bylaw 33-2016 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, is here for the first, second, and third time, finding passed and sealed this 14th day of March 2016. All in favor? It's carried. It's been moved by Councillor Rich and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau. This regular council meeting, March 14th, 2016, hereby adjourned at 9:47 p.m. Favor? Yep. We're adjourned.